A very good, summary of it. So I won't try to give you a whole lot of unnecessary detail. Let me just read you a piece from the middle. You should just know that the book is narrated by Father David Anderton, who is this priest that you mentioned, who's a wonderful snob, but also, I think, a sort of intricate man. And he turns up in this place is Savage, this village that he turns up in, and I'm not sure that he's ever able to look after himself. I mean, he's sort of irritating from the beginning, and he makes mistakes everywhere he goes. When he opens his mouth, he makes a mistake with these people, and he will pay for it. But I just want to read you a part about a wedding. Yeah. Because if you're a priest in Scotland, you really spend your whole life doing funerals and weddings and trying to, add something that isn't already in the liturgy, and this is his problem. People want to applaud in church nowadays. One simply lets them. Pragmatic, Bishop Gerard says. The boy marrying Lisa's sister stood at the altar with wet-looking, gelled hair and bore, together with his best man, a mischievous smirk dabbed around with aftershave. They had the sort of cosmetic freshness that follows hard on the heels of debauchery, and the congregation buzzed that morning with repressed jokes. There were giggles when I asked for any reason why this marriage might be put asunder, and the service ended with applause and cheering, indeed, of a sort that might be thought, on a rainy day, to have taken too little account of the perpetual suffering of Christ, whose journey to Calvary was depicted at intervals on the walls of the chapel. At the rear of the line of tanned youths coming to communion was Mr. Savage, the old communist of the town, who shuffled towards me with his plastic bags. This time he asked for 2 hosts, one after the other. I'm afraid I can't do that, I whispered. You're not hungry, are you? No, he said. Just tired. The bride's mother saw the old man coming out of nowhere, and she looked confused and then faintly repelled. I saw her examine the back of his raincoat and then point him out to a group of the men, as if to ensure that he couldn't harm the proceedings. She did it swiftly, with a single painted finger, as if she recognized his type and hated his coat. I watched him for a second over her shoulder as he walked to the door and stood in the shadows. That was just beautiful, Father, she said, staring at me somewhat maniacally for a second. It occurred to me she looked like someone who'd taken lessons in smiling. Her face was orange, of course, and her hair quite yellow. You gave our Helen a great send-off. So you did, Father. Okay. Now, you'll come to the reception, won't you? I mean, we've set a place for you at the table. I don't think so, Mrs. Nolan. It's very kind of you indeed, but I have a great deal of parish business to be getting on with. Oh, away you go, she said, giving me a gentle shove. It's a Saturday. You'll certainly be coming to the reception, Father. Oh, we no good enough for you, eh? We're no good enough for him. I'll have none of that nonsense from you, Father. Come to the reception and have a wee dram. I know we're no your type, Father. I know that, but just for me. It's no every day a person sees their oldest lassie getting married. As she spoke her plump words, I caught sight of Mark and Lisa over her shoulder. Mark was wearing a black tie. He saw me looking up and made a quick, friendly nod, as if proposing that I acquiesce to whatever Mrs. Nolan was asking of me. Of course, I found myself saying. Of course I'll come. That would be splendid. Rice was sticking to the umbrellas, and pinches of confetti floated in the puddles. The faces of small children appeared. They had different haircuts, the children, but the same eyes, and their voices rose in anticipation of a challenge and an opportunity. "Scramble!" they shouted. I watched from the tinted dark of a hired limousine, the best man throwing handfuls of silver and the children diving into the gravel to pick up the coins. "Look at the state of them," said Mr. Nolan, the bride's father. "A bunch of piranhas. You'd think they'd never seen a coin, right?" "Is it one of your Scottish traditions?" I said. "A good one," he said. "When I was young, we used to scour the town looking for weddings just so as we can get into the scramble." The car moved off down the lane with a beep at the crouching kids and a squeak of upholstery. "You were born here in Dalgarnock, Mr. Nolan." "Born and bred," he said. "And I'll tell you something for nothing. It's not the place I grew up in." "Really? How so?" "I'll tell you how," he said. "There used to be plenty of work about here, Father. Good jobs. Coal mining, right? That's what I'm saying. Coal mining, right? I mean, big steelworks, all that. ICI, that's what I'm talking about. The place used to employ thousands, right? Aye, that's what I'm saying. They made paint. I mean, before that, it was Nobel, you know, the guy, the explosives, that's right. About here, loads of work. Men worked in these places for 40 years, and at the end of it, the job centre was trying to turn them into Avon ladies. Mr. Nolan was a youngish man, still in his 40s, I had said, but his delivery was hardened and wise-seeming. His attitude somewhat elegiac, as if life had already shown him its uselessness. "Is that right?" "You're damn right it's right," he said. "Humiliating. There's a word for you. That's your global economy, right? There you go, Father. Experienced tradesmen working in pet shops. And that's the lucky ones. Half of them have never worked since. I mean, these boys, they got their apprenticeship papers. They were 16. I mean, they've never worked. I mean, the younger ones leaving school now. Well, they wouldn't get jobs. They wouldn't want jobs anyway, them. Talk about lazy." The car was being driven up the coast road, the other passengers cooing about the bride's dress or things being nice. But Mr. Nolan seemed to grow more surly as we passed the dual carriageway and the new houses. "This was all fields," he said. "Now you take a look. Look. That's right. It's all houses for people who aren't even from here. Incomers. That's right, Father. Incomers, people from Glasgow, or worse, England. Interlopers, Maggie. Interlopers, I say. That's them. Glasgow, what? England, they're all here. You know they're even packing those bloody asylum seekers into boxes and bringing them here." "Places do change, don't they, Mr. Nolan?" I said. "Aye, well, you can say that. Change. This place has changed for the worst." "Oh, for heaven's sake, put a smile on your face, Dominic," said Mrs. Nolan. "You'd put years in a person, the way you talk." "Well, it's true," said Mr. Nolan. "You may as well know the truth. You like the truth, Father, right? You like that." The hotel had tartan carpets and too many balloons. Each table in the reception suite carried several bottles of frascati, surrounded by net bags full of sugared almonds. Mr. Nolan gave a speech saying he wasn't losing a daughter, but gaining a son. The best man gave a speech saying the groom had lost his virginity round the back of a disco called Casper's to a bus conductress twice his age. The groom's riposte included the observation that the best man was a bammer, whatever that is, along with the point that he first came to admire his new wife because she was a mentalist. In my own unscheduled speech, I tried to get into the swing of things by quoting Robert Louis Stevenson on the idea that marriage was a sort of friendship recognized by the police. Titters into the coffee cups, and then used scripture Yes, to argue that matrimony was a sacrament that deepened the couple's union with Christ, yawns, before raising one of the toxic glasses and taking my seat to cries of, "Ole, ole, ole." A certain Auntie Mary was sick into a bag of wedding gifts. A certain Uncle Alan threw a punch in the direction of a certain Uncle Stuart, which missed but instead hit a curtain and cracked the panel of light switches behind it. Mrs. Nolan complained to the hotel's function manager that the Gallia melon hadn't been cold. The bar ran out of ice just before the Guinness taps went down, but by then the band had appeared on the edge of the dance floor and the newlyweds were dancing to a song called 3 Times a Lady. "Enjoying yourself, Father," said Mark. "I wouldn't go that far," I said. "The party's great, man. Come with us. Totally mad." "Is that good?" He cuffed my shoulder with the knuckles of one hand. "It's cleared up out there," he said. "The rain's off. We were just outside. Have you seen the bogs in here? Right fancy." We were on the carpeted stairs next to a fire extinguisher, and people were pouring up from the downstairs bar. I remember looking at him and thinking how sharp he looked, his tie loose and the skin in his face. So clear. Fresh. He was showing me a handful of square packages. Red condoms. "Check them out," he said. The stairs were cloying with the smell of aftershave and dry smoke. I reached my hand down behind me and felt the cold, soothing roundness of the fire extinguisher. "Are you trying to shock me, Mark?" I said. "Do you know what they are, Father?" "No," I said, "but I have a suspicion they might be very evil indeed." "McNuggets, stop ribbing the priest," said Lisa, coming up from behind and leaning on both shoulders. "They are ribbed," said Mark, howling with laughter. "That's what it says on the thing, the packet." "Father, are you having a nice time? Are you having a nice wee time?" asked Lisa. "That was cool. That was so cool what you did today. My sister's a bitch, actually." They both laughed. "Well, she is, but never mind. It was nice. Wasn't it, Mark? It was nice. Now I've got a room to myself. That's all I care about. And I keep the stereo." "Excuse me, Lisa," said Mark. "If you don't mind, I've just been showing Father Anderton these rubber johnnies." "Oh, yes," I said. I was very shocked. Lisa took a condom from him and pressed it into my hand. "Now he is holding one," she said. In that second, I saw there was something a little vicious about Lisa. She didn't really care what happened in the world around her, so long as she found something to thrill her. "I've got the key to the honeymoon suite," she giggled. "Hey, motherfucker," said Mark. "Stop telling everybody. We're going to go in there for a wee sniff." "Very good. Very good," I said. "Just don't tell the bishop." I dropped the thing onto the carpet and didn't look down. "You're brilliant," said Mark.